There is a place that is spoken about only in whispers, a dark area that spawns the beginnings of urban legends, a place where anything can happen and usually does. During the light of day, it hides just outside of view, but when the sun goes down, spirits, creatures of the night, roam free, and things do go bump in the night. It is in every state and every country, and there is no escaping it, no matter how safe you feel behind your locked doors and latched windows. So we invite you to turn down the lights and turn up your radio while we join Dave Schrader and Tim Dennis, your hosts, on a journey into the darkness on the edge of town.
Hello and welcome. You're tuned into the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Darkness Radio. I'm your host, Dave Schrader. Along with me, the ever-present Mr. Tim Dennis. Hello, Tim.
I love being ever-present. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, omnipresent almost. You're everywhere. You seem to know everything, well, at least about AI and the rise of the robots trying to kill us. And yes, folks, I saw the 900 articles about the Roomba that tried to swallow the woman's hair, and that's the uprising of Skynet. Come on, I need better than a Roomba. Death by Roomba is not going to prove to me that Tim's right and that the end of the world is going to come at the hands of intelligent robots. I just won't buy it, Tim.
It is the beginning, Dave. It is. Yeah.
Tim.
Yeah.
That's your take on it. Now, I've got an expert who's joining us now. He knows things, Tim.
Okay.
And I think he's going to finally put the nail in the coffin of what is going to take us out. Is it the zombie apocalypse, or could it really be the rise of AI, or our third dark horse, which is monkeys getting guns and shooting us, which we've been seeing more and more stories of. Creepy monkey genome projects that are making them more human. It's unnerving. What if it's monkeys genome projects that turn into zombie-infected monkeys, Tim, and that we have to build robotic AI to take them out?
I needed a safe room after that.
Yeah, I know. It's a lot to think about. Listen, we love to talk about movies, paranormal movies, scary movies. We chat about them. There's a movie that I just got a chance to watch. It's out and available right now. It's called Witness Infection. And Tim, this is a movie I think is right in your wheelhouse. It's a fun movie. It's kitschy. It's kind of, if you would imagine The Sopranos meets Dawn of the Dead, meets Shaun of the Dead, meets Jackie Brown and Pulp Fiction. It's this great little amalgam and nods to so many great genre movies, but a zombie flick nonetheless that I've never seen done before, which, 2021, that goes a long way of saying I've not seen a zombie movie with this take on it before. What happens when the mob goes up against zombies, Tim?
Ooh.
Yeah, Witness Infection. So I happen to be lucky enough to work with the guy who's behind this, and he's been on the Parents Lounge when I've been a guest on there with Jamie Kaler and our buddy Jason Gowan every Tuesday night, and he makes appearances. Carlos Alazraqui is with us right now. You probably recognize him from Reno 911. He also does a myriad of cartoon voices, to many of the cartoon voices that my kids have grown up on, from Denzel Crocker from Fairly Odd Parents to Rocco and Laszlo from Rocco's Modern Life. It's amazing to have him on the show with us. Thank you so much for being here with us, Carlos.
Dave, thank you. And it's Sean, is it right? Is that right?
Well,
the name's right.
Tim.
I was gonna call you Bane, but hey, we can settle it elsewhere. That's fine.
Tim of the Dead. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to go old school with AI taking over. I'm going to go Twilight Zone, 1960s, where the one-armed devil pushes Franklin out of the window. Franklin. It's going to be slot machines, which are mechanical, which already have us with our addiction, right? They bring the slot machines, lure us to them. And we're just going to be tethered to slot machines as the other machines take over.
I like it. Yeah.
Oh, my God, I'm being killed by a robot. I'm winning. I hit the jackpot. They're going to outflank us with old school Twilight Zone.
Wait a minute.
Thank you.
So a guy who created a zombie movie, and your partner on this, we want to make sure we mention, is Jill Michelle Meleon, and the co-creator of this. Carlos, here's my thought. I I like you. I'm entertained by you and your visits on the Parents Lounge and all of the great work you've done. And then I see that you've created a movie and I'm like, oh, please don't let it suck. I don't want to have to talk to the guy if it's a shit movie. And man, I really enjoyed it. Like I said, it had such great kitsch value, the right amount of humor, the right amount of spookiness and fun. You did a great take on this. We always go 1 out of 5 stars on the show. I'm going to give it a solid 3 3/4 stars.
I like that. Yeah, because obviously I've seen the movie, and yeah, we didn't set out to win the Oscar for best adapted screenplay or best original screenplay for sure. And we were trying to be emulative of all the things that Jill and I liked. Sopranos, Goodfellas, and Shaun of the Dead, and for me, Dead Snow, Leader, Host, and Zombies, Tucker and Dale versus Evil, and trying to just mix. And I love Foxy Brown stuff. And we were writing for our friends, and so the part of the Foxy Brown character was written for Deborah Wilson, Mad TV, because we knew she could handle that speech and get all, Rosata vengeance. Yes. And then Monique Coleman stepped in and just blew it out of the water and added this sort of different level of muscle and sex appeal, and as opposed to just the craziness. And we seem to be able to blend everything together. My friend Vince Don Vito, very up on the Godfather references. Well, leave the cannoli, take the gun, leave the cannoli. Right?
That's right.
Leave the gun, take the cannoli. The Carlo Rossi references, all the Godfather references. We managed to. The danger was 2 comedians trying to write a movie that would have been 2 Zucker brothers, 2 schlocky, a lot like Mafia with Jay Moore, which is kind of fun. But Andy Palmer comes along. He directed Funhouse Massacre, Camp Colebrook, and he sort of went through the script and said, hey, let's sort of see if we can just pull back, add a little bit more story. A lot of things we had to cut because we didn't have the budget for a $5 million movie. We had to go super low budget. This was a $400K. We had 15 days. We got rained out. We had favors. We had actors switching at the last minute. So it was all a dance. And in the end, I will take 3 3/4 stars out of 5 for all that we went through. And people like it. It's a fun movie. I notice when I show it to people or my neighbors who are in the prop business, they talk through the movie, but it didn't mean that they weren't enjoying it. They were just talking about the scene they just saw. Right. Which means they were engaged but missed some of the dialogue. It's a movie you can watch over and over again because you're going to miss certain little references or certain little nods. Yep. And we've seen all the zombie kills we could see, right? And so we only had money from a practical makeup standpoint, budget point of view, where we could do 3 or 4 really good kills. And we saved the best for last, in my opinion. It's a kill I had never seen before. And tried to make it sense within the script. It's like, this is kind of how it would be done. You got to be resourceful. What tools can I use to take care of this last zombie who happens to be my youngest son or my older son? So, I thank you. We just tried to get inventive. We just tried to have fun. And we threw it all together. Andy's a great editor. We had fun parts, great actors. Brett Ernst, Aaron Hayes was a steal. Tara Strong, Maurice LaMarche, of your big voiceover people. Right. Blowing it out of the water. Joe Reitman, Gary Anthony Williams, because you mentioned Pulp Fiction. That was Jill's idea. That was Wardrobe's idea. And it kind of worked. It's like, how do you throw in all these elements and not just make it a hot mess and make it make sense? And we seem to be able to take care of that. So. Well, and we're happy.
I love the sense. Now, just so you understand, I rarely give a 5-star. That's got to be a movie beyond reproach, right? We're talking Dumb and Dumber. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, but it's got to be an epic.
Raising Arizona.
And if I say a 4-star, people are like, "Oh, come on, 4-star." So if I give it that 3 3/4, it gives people a good advantage. Oh, that sounds like I'd like that. Let's go check it out. So I put this even closer to a 4-star, but it's a fun. Like I said, I like the fact that you did something I'd never seen before, which is matching zombies and the mob. I love that whole concept. I love the whole idea that the government, in their infinite wisdom, put all 4 families in witness protection in the same town. And
2 families, and then try to marry them all together. And I have to say, I got to meet this person once in a record for Fairly Odd Parents. I borrowed from John Polito in Miller's Crossing. Always shave with a cold razor and always leave one in the head. And of course, when you're doing a mob movie, the double entendre of having to kill a zombie by shooting him in the head is going to work for both genres, both mobsters. You got to leave one in the head, and zombies. You got to leave one in the head. And so I went, okay, we got to use that. Right. But yeah, I'm glad that you gave that. It's fun viewing. It's light. There's Mel Brooks gas blazing saddles humor.
Yep.
There's sophomoric humor, but there's a story. There's three people. I call it Harry Potter, Hermione, and Ron Weasley. They're all just trying to battle the evil that's going on inside this mob Hogwarts with poisoned food. And you track them, and you give them a little bit of a little teeny fun arc, and what happens in the end, you know? And it's a romp. Somebody called it a zom-com.
Yes, that's a perfect title for it, a zom-com. It's a great mixture of all of that, and I applaud the effort because, again, I've seen, you know, Tim and I do a lot of the conventions, and we go and we see a lot of people that are making horror movies and like B-level, Z-level horror movies, and those are atrocious. I don't even understand how they have a following, but they're huge. And I guess overseas they love American slasher horror zombie movies. Yeah. So if you haven't broken that market, Carlos, get it over there, because I've seen the crap that's being looked at as amazing. Your movie's going to come out like like an Oliver Stone film over there. It's got to blow up.
I hope so. We're going with a company called 123 Media for our foreign, and I get that. You know, we tried to be emulative more of even Dale and Tucker versus Evil was gagged, and it was these guys who didn't mean to kill people, but through Clouseau, Pink Panther type antics, they just ended up actually hurting people against their will. So I love that conceit of that film and the gags that they use. Lederhosen Zombies is not a good film, but it's so fun. Dead Snow is, to me, where you have Nazi zombies coming back to steal jewelry that they originally stole from Jewish people in a town in Sweden is pretty inventive, and it just gets wacky. So we tried to really be more Shaun of the Dead like, and when you go overseas foreign market, you get the Scream Queens, and people will just watch a movie because of that, and so you can just shove anything. We tried to have a little story and make it gory. When it's gory, our movie is gory, because we had Jim Ojala, who worked very famously on a movie called Dead Girl, which way back when was a top honoree at the Toronto Film Festival.
Right.
And Jim's love of Rick Baker and love of practical makeup, and his team, their dedication of making boils and making these practical effects that would work. And they had to work, because on a low budget, you don't have 3 or 4 chances. You got one shot at it.
Right.
And Jim was so good at making sure that these gags would work. So it was such a Little Rascals approach. And again, I like the 3 3/4 stars. Watch it. It's fun. It's short. We don't meander. It may take a while. We try to emulate Shaun of the Dead. It takes a while before you really have that first significant zombie encounter. But we hope that the story is engaging enough that you don't mind. But once it goes, once the roller coaster, reaches the top of the hill, then it's just you're going.
And I love how the outbreak occurs. I don't want to give any secrets away, but it's that cracked me up in so many ways. So check it out. Yeah. I've got a link up for it today on the program, so you can see that. Carlos, I have to ask, because Tim and I are huge cartoon nerds and love programs, and certainly I have sat down for years watching The Fairly Odd Parents. I think that is one of the most brilliant cartoons of the last 30 years, easily, right in that wheelhouse of the Looney Tunes, Warner Brothers mix, and have loved watching those shows. So you do so many voices. First of all, this movie had to be fun because you get to break away from kid characters and get to be fully fleshed out and something else. But when you're going in, do they give you an example of art and say, this is how we see it? Or do they listen to your voice and then craft a character around you and the voice you've created for these different characters?
Well, it's always relative from project to project. On some you will. In the case of Denzel Crocker, there was a picture of this skinny guy with glasses with ears on his neck and all bent over and hunched over. And I had an idea of mixing Gene Wilder, said again, with Montgomery Burns. Smithers, excellent, all in good time. And Richard Dreyfuss, you said shark on a boat, you didn't say huge shark. And so I mixed them all together, Timmy Turner Fairies. But Butch Hartman worked with me on it. Butch Hartman let me get crazy. He steered me towards it. It was collaborative. I have a segment on my Instagram called How I Came Up with a Voice. And I is sort of a misnomer, because more often than not, it is collaborative. You'll get a picture. You'll work with a director. once in a while you'll take a stab at it. Rocco, when I first went in to do Rocco from Rocco's Modern Life, Joe Murray and George Maestri and Jennings. Oh, what's his name? Why am I forgetting his name? He said, we don't want Australian. We want like a Bruno Kirby. We want like this. And we were trying it. And then I started to make him laugh by doing, you're not evil, you're good. And that kept me in the room. And I just said, hey, do you mind if he's kind of got a long nose. So I did have the visual. He's got big eyes and his teeth are coming out the side. How about if I try something like this? And they said, yeah, let's give that a try. And I read a vacuum manual. Plug the unit into your wall socket. However, if you are changing a hose, make sure the unit is unplugged. And there was something about the innocence of that they liked. And they said, yeah, let's work with that. They sent it off to Nickelodeon. We made the pilot. And then lo and behold, it became something that I took a lucky stab at. But more often than not, you are getting a drawing. You are getting a type. And especially nowadays, they'll say like a Nick Offerman type or a Christopher Walken type. And it doesn't mean you have to always nail it on the head, because Billy West wisely said that a really off impression is an original voice. And so that Crocker is not a great impression of Montgomery Burns or Gene Wilder or Richard Dreyfuss, but if you blend them all together, he's his own individual character. So there's kind of secrets that you can use, but you should check out my Instagram on how I came up with a voice, and it lends you some insight into what we are given and how we do it. And sometimes you're way off the mark, and then you see somebody else render that character and you go, oh yeah, that person made the right choice. I had the artwork. Or sometimes you're on a show and they go, we want you to just play this character. You're already on like a Nickelodeon. For example, I'm on Casagrandes, right? And I play Carlos, who's a nerd, and Sergio the parrot, and Vito Filippone is the guy. He's a moocher. He's an Italian guy. But every once in a while, they'll go, we want you to play like a store owner, like, hey guys, get out of my store, and you do this voice, and then they show you the animation, and it's really skinny, and you're like, oh, that voice didn't match. I wish I knew what that character looked like. So there's all that happens in the voiceover sort of pursuit. Often we are directed, and often finding the voice is artwork and collaborative, but sometimes you're just going off a description and you go for it.
I do have a quick question for Carlos. I noticed that you have quite a bit of DC work as far as Batman and Justice League, but only one Marvel to your credit. One, I think it's Spider-Man, isn't it? There's a Spider-Man film that you were in. What's that?
There might be, and there might be, and I'm not sure. I don't remember a lot of that stuff. It's interesting. I grew up a jock, and I was not a comic book guy, not a superhero guy. Even to this day, Wonder Woman, Black Panther, whatever, fine. I love Watchmen. I love something that's inventive and dark, and where the characters are vulnerable. I don't absolutely love the CGI. I was not really into this Marvel DC world, and Andrea Romano picked me to play Bane. I had no idea that the original Bane came from Latin America, escaped a cave. Mm-hmm. I think they explore it in one of the movies, but I just look at Chris Hardy do his. No, yes, someone here has a detonator, right? And he's marvelous because Chris Hardy is Chris Hardy and Mad Max, and so she said, I want you to be South American and I want you to be big and as burly as you can. Like, well, I'm not John DiMaggio or Fred Tatasciore, or I don't have that big bottom end, but they can kind of help me with some augmentation. But it was like, when we fought before, I broke the man. Now I break the man. And then it was like, oh, okay, yeah, I like that. Let's go with that. So I had no idea how important Bane was in that world. And now I'm kind of honored and to be a part of this Marvel world in a couple of versions of Bane. We did the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles mashup with Batman.
Right.
We did the Legion Doom one was where I first did it. Monsters and Mechs. Arkham Asylum, I played a couple of thugs. But so I'm just happy at all to be involved in this world because I know how much it means to people. And I have to thank Andrea Romano for picking me because otherwise I may not have been in this world at all.
I was just going to say it's really interesting that first of all you're in that world, but I was going to ask if you were a comic book fan first of all before you got into it, and second if you had a preference DC over Marvel, but you just answered that question, so I appreciate that.
And I love the '60s Adam West Batman with Burt Ward, and my brother and I had this bassinet that had white metal tires on it. We painted them white and painted bats on them as we both pretended to drive the Batmobile on this upside down bassinet. So I remember in the 90s, I was working on a cartoon, and one of our guests, we had Mickey Dolenz and a lot of people as guest stars. I walked in and there was Adam West. I was like, oh my God, it's Adam West. And he leans over, this is in 99. And he goes, I guess we'll be having tacos for our lunch. Yo quiero Taco Bell. And it's like, holy crap. Adam West knows that I'm the Taco Bell dog. This is like not happening. This is so meta. Like, I love the 60s Batman. That's what I grew up with after school. So in that sense, you could say I was like, that's Marvel, right? Is that Marvel or is that DC? I'm not sure. Batman is Marvel, isn't he?
Is it? Yeah. No,
Batman, he's DC.
Yeah, DC, right. Yep. But I've got to ask, is it more satisfying when you're like on Reno 911 or starring in Witness Infection and people can see you and tie you to the image, or do you prefer the anonymity of kind of doing the voices, and you could be out in the mix and maybe not get as harassed, and especially if kids recognized you? I would assume your life would be hell every 5 feet when they realized who you are and what voices you do.
Golly, maybe I can answer it like this, is that when I'm at a con, it's kind of a thrill that people have come up to my booth because I'm Rocco, and they'll look on my banner and they know I'm Spyro, the original Spyro. They know I'm Mr. Weed from a Family Guy. They know I'm Mr. Crocker. And they're like getting their Crocker interview and they go, hold on. Oh my God. I had no idea you were Garcia on Reno 911. I'm like, yep, pretty cool. So that is a thrill for me that people are so allegiant, is that the word, to voiceover actors? They really do follow them. And it takes a lot to follow a voice actor and find out who that actor is. But it is a thrill when they find out that I also do Garcia, and I have done some on-camera work, and I have done this film, Witness Infection. We really are maybe going to get to go to Shriek Fest in October in Los Angeles. We were already invited as an entrant, but they did the film festival virtually. But now they want us to screen live, and that will be a thrill for Maurice LaMarche and for Tara Strong, who's on Very Hard Cases in Toronto. We love being recognized for our on-camera stuff. It's as if to say, is like, we're really good at this too. We are actors that can act on screen. I'm a stand-up comic. Tom Kenny was a stand-up comic. Billy West did comedy. Maurice LaMarche was in comedy. Frank Welker was a great impressionist comedian that did these roasts with Frank Sinatra and Don Rickles, man. Frank Welker, Freddie, Scooby-Doo. So we all want to say that, John DiMaggio was on an episode of Newsroom where he played a holding pen cop who was talking to Jeff Daniels, and he really held his own. We can act is what we want to say. So we would love for you to see us on camera. And that was like part of the fun for a lot of voiceover fans who've seen the film already, like, oh my gosh, Maurice LaMarche was so great. Gary Anthony Williams, of course, dances between both mediums. He's all over, Whose Line Is It Anyway? He's on The Crew with Kevin James. Joe Reitman has done both. So it is kind of fun to show off as voiceover actors what we can do on camera. It's a really cool feeling. But I think I like when I get recognized as Rocco too.
I was going to say voiceover. I think voiceover actors are truly the best actors, because for you to be able to maintain and do what you do with these characters, humanize them, give them such a great personality, that's a lot harder, because a lot of, and I don't want to beat up on a lot of actors, but a lot of actors fall into the role of being Christopher Walken or being John C. Reilly, or the same character in every movie. They're just putting them in a different setting.
Yeah, it's called acting with your voice. John C. Reilly is pretty much going to be John C. Reilly, right? Hey, it's me, Ralph. Or Ray Romano is going to be, I'm a mastodon in this movie. In this other movie, I play a cactus. That is acting with your voice. versus voiceover acting. Patton Oswalt, obviously playing in Ratatouille, is doing Patton Oswalt. You know, he's altering it slightly, making him a little younger. But yeah, our goal is to kind of fool you. Like, I had no idea you did that voice. I had no idea Nancy Cartwright did Bart Simpson and this other character and this other character. You know, Hank Azaria doing all those characters. I mean, Dan Castellaneta is so underrated. His range is through the roof. Oh, Krusty the Crowd, oh, Homer, and every character that he does is so delineated and so different and so wonderful. So Dan Castellaneta versus Ray Romano. Dan Castellaneta is both an actor and a voice actor because he can give you 70 different notes. Ray Romano's pretty much going to give you Ray Romano. And where it sort of blends in is where you get Billy Crystal adding, you know, because I do a lot of Mike Wazowski family stuff, all the toys, the rides and stuff. But here's Billy Crystal, you know, kind of talking like this normally. And but then kind of pitching it up when he has to and go, and then dropping down and go, Roz, you know, you look lovely. Sully, we got to get out of here. Here's him pitching his voice to create a character that's pretty close to him, but far enough away where you're like, wow, he really does some finite, detailed work with that Mike Wazowski character. It's really good. And so that's the case where celebrity is almost using his voice, but tweaking it. John Goodman is pretty much John Goodman is Sully. But, you know, give him a little bit more bolsterous personality, but it's still John's voice.
Right.
So, and Ellen DeGeneres, you know, making Dory a little bit goofier than Ellen is in real life, you know, pitching her up a little bit. Those are examples of where celebrities who act with their voice are just tweaking it just enough. But, there's all facets of it. But I liken voice actors like I could mention 1,000, right? Gray Delisle, Tara Strong, John DiMaggio. Let's just go down the list. I know that voice. Great documentary by John DiMaggio.
Yes, it's
we
awesome.
Are studio jazz musicians who can give you whatever you need. How young do you need it? How fast do you need it? What ethnicity do you need it? Hire us. We will make that happen for you. And it'll be good, and then we'll make the choices really quickly, and you won't be here for 3 hours. You know, we know what we're doing. We're used to working fast because we're working with the Charlie Adlers as a director, Colette Sunderman, the Chris Zimmermans, the Andrea Romanos. We need it fast. We need to be able to change on a dime. And that's what made Mo and Tara so facile in this movie. Tara, we need kind of a New Yorkie kind of Lords of Flatbush, like big hair, like, no, where's my husband? I bet I caught him eye bagging that chick next door. You know, she can do that in a second. Maurice, we need you to be kind of who you were in Zootopia. The day of my daughter's wedding. Of course, you were doing more Marlon Brando, but be that type with a little bit more edge, but also a little bit of softness. Boom, Mo's like, done, got it. Let's do this. You know, it wasn't heavy lifting with those guys. They got it right away.
Very cool. I got to ask you before we let you get going here, Carlos, since we are a paranormal themed show, you're doing a movie on zombies. Have you ever had a paranormal experience? Ghosts, UFOs, Bigfoot, any kind of strange sightings?
Yes. And once you're going to have Joe Michelle Melian on your show, and she tells a great story about getting her feet tugged by a girl in pigtails 6 years before it actually happened in real life. And it would be her niece 6 years into the future, tugging on her with her pigtails while she was sleeping in a bed. Pretty cool stuff. I'm more of a skeptic who wants to believe. We do this show called He Saw, She Saw. It's now called The Witching Hour, in which I go with Jill to try to experience what she experiences at the same time. Go to my friend Josh's house. The wife says the baby nursery is haunted by this male ghost or whatever. So we set up crude tape recorders and blah, blah, blah. Right. And I'm thinking, nah. And we play back this recorder, and I hear, Jilly. And it wasn't like scratching like you hear on these shows, like, I was like, I really heard the weird, Jilly. And I'm like, okay, all right. I'm still kind of a skeptic, but I freaking heard that word. And I know nobody was in that room, so, okay, I'm a little freaked out. That's my closest verbal encounter with feeling a spirit or an entity. So here's a guy that's a skeptic telling you that I heard the word Jilly. That's as much as I can give you.
I've got to guess, when your time comes, if you decide to haunt this planet, you are going to have 900 voices coming out of you that, I'm wondering if we do EVP work, are we going to get Rocco, or are we going to get Mr. Crocker, or, what's going to actually come through? Did you ever hear the story about Mel Blanc and his car accident?
No.
It's crazy. And you might want to tell family and friends about this, because he was actually in a car accident. He was in a coma and they were pretty distraught. This is a famous story. They weren't able to communicate with him. They thought they were going to lose Mel Blanc, and the doctor had an idea. He said, "Do you mind if I try something?" And he went over to Mel Blanc in this coma, and he said, "Yeah, this is Dr. Anderson, and I'm wondering if Bugs Bunny is available to talk." And Mel Blanc goes, "What's up, Doc?" And he starts talking as Bugs Bunny in a coma. He was connecting. He was connecting to a different part of the brain where these voices and characters lived. And it's a famous story. They believe that's what helped bring Mel out of this coma, is that they re-engaged the brain like a Rubik's Cube in a different order. They clicked it into place, and he talked to, so maybe Rocco will be what brings you back to this world. It's astounding to me.
I had to admit in my, why are ghosts always angry, like paranormal, like, get out, Amityville, get out. It's never an overly happy, flamboyant gay ghost like, no, organize your closet, plant a garden, adopt a Chinese baby. But there has to be truth to that Mel Blanc story, because there was a very famous Oscar movie, and I met the star at the Annie Awards, where it was a child with autism who learned how to speak by imitating Disney cartoons and other cartoons. It appealed to something in his brain where he could connect. He never spoke before he watched cartoons, and that's how he learned to speak and communicate. So there's got to be some truth to that it just sort of circumvents whatever's blocking your brain and hits it right there on the target. I can't remember what the movie was called, but that often seems to be the case, is that the songs or music or a voice can circumvent all the things that are blocking your path to being able to speak.
It's amazing. So, Carlos, I want to thank you again for joining us, talking a little bit about the movie, giving us some insights behind the scenes of voiceover work, and sharing your paranormal. And I'll tell you what, when I get out that way, let's go ghost hunt. I'll take you out, and we'll see if we can get something going. I would love to. I went to a prison in Williamsport, this dance club that used to be an old prison, an old brick place that said that it was haunted. And I was with Cedric Yarborough. Was like, man, don't mess around with ghosts. I'm like, where are they? Show me where they are. So I would love to do that. You can count on me. We'll make it happen next time I'm out in that area. Thank you again, Carlos. All right. We appreciate the time, buddy. Thank you. Thank you, Dave and Tim. All righty. Well, folks, we've got more to discuss. It is a Supernatural News Parashare Day. We also have a brand new Theater of the Mind, a Ouija board story, freshly minted and brought to our attention. That's coming up in a little bit. But, Tim, let's take a break. When we come back, we've got a longtime friend of our show who had a recent experience. So consider it a blending of Supernatural News and Parashare. When we return, stay tuned. You're listening to the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Darkness Radio. Welcome back to the best in paranormal talk programs. This is Darkness Radio, and I'm your host, Dave Schrader. That guy over there, Tim Dennis. Tim, this Thursday, we've got another Holzer's Ghost episode, live video stream from our Darkness Radio YouTube page. And from our social media pages. So you can watch the interview take place as we re-investigate the Holzer Files, Season 1, I think it's like Episode 5 or 6 at Lambert Castle. It's an amazing story that incorporates everything from ghosts, psychic perceptions, reincarnation, and more. It's an amazing story, and we've got some great guests lined up for you this week, so make sure you check that out. And go to the Darkness Radio YouTube page, subscribe to it now, hit the little bell so you never miss out. It costs you nothing. to do that, folks. So that way you can get all the exclusive content that we put up over on that page, and you'll be able to keep up with us. Plus, you can listen to the podcast version every Friday. So make sure you keep up with that too. It is a Parashare and a Supernatural News. What if I told you, Tim, that we've got a blend of both in our next story?
I'd be intrigued. Definitely intrigued. Yeah.
Well, here's the deal. This is a longtime friend of ours who had an experience. He reached out to me a couple days back, and he's like, I have to tell somebody this that's not going to think I'm nuts. And we've been talking about this kind of phenomena for a while, back and forth in messages. He's out in the great, I think, Southwest part of America, and has had something that seems to have blown him away. So I asked, would you come on the show and tell us a little bit about this? And he agreed to do it. Ladies and gentlemen, our good friend and longtime contributor to the program, Bill Chappell. Bill, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Well, thank you, David. Thank you, Tim. It's good to be on the show.
Now, this is pretty spectacular, and I think it's going to blow Tim's mind with what you have to share with us. So you walk us through this moment and leading up to it and what you actually saw.
Okay, well, it was just a couple days ago. It was Friday night. Now, to give everybody a background, my ranch sits out on the New Mexico border out in the Southwest. And from my ranch to the nearest pavement is about 18 miles and about 45, 50-minute drive to the nearest city, and that's about 1,500 people. So we're fairly isolated out here. We sit on a large canyon. In this area, we get, like I said, a canyon behind my property. My property backs up to it, has a 400-foot drop and a river in it, and the military comes out here, and they'll teach helicopter pilots from time to time and fly training missions through there. So I've seen all kinds of military aircraft out here from time to time. So anyway, Friday night, no moon, very still, very quiet. It was probably 65 degrees at 10 o'clock at night. And I stepped out of my patio, and I'm just kind of, like I say, just getting ready to take a shower and go to bed. But I thought I'd walk out and just kind of look around. And I look over to the horizon out to the west of my property, and I really don't notice anything. And as I'm kind of panning back, heading to the north, I see it looks like a pale green, like a neon light. And it's a very thin strip, and it's very long in the sky. And as I look back over again to the west, I realize I see almost in a parallel line to it, this small red light, and it's oscillating, and it's blinking, and it's going up and down what I presume to be the side of this thing. Now, what I told Dave, when I looked at this thing, and I finally went back on Saturday, and I took pictures in the daytime and tried to figure out exactly where I was standing in perspective. So when I first saw this thing, I'm thinking this thing is like, I don't know, a mile in length, a mile and a half. And I'm realizing as I looked at this thing that it's blocking out the horizon and all the star field back behind it. Now, where we're at out here, you can see the backscatter of the Milky Way and everything. There are no city lights or anything that penetrate the night sky out here. So I see this thing, and I realized for a second, I said, this is not, I don't know what this is, but I have to go get a picture. So I ran upstairs, and I grabbed my phone, and I came back down. And by the time I got back down to try and take a picture of it, it was gone. Now, I know it was rectangular in shape because it was blocking out the night sky behind it. And I'd never seen anything like this. And I watched for another 35, 40 minutes to see if it would come back or anything else happen. And I've been watching every night since, but I haven't seen a reoccurrence of it. So I don't know if this is like, you try to rationalize, was this like one of these triangle UFOs people talk about? But I could really only see a rectangular side. I couldn't see, like, from the position I'm at, I'm guessing this thing is probably about quarter mile, half a mile away from me. And, it blocked out a huge portion of the nighttime sky. I would say, as I went back and I recreated it on a drawing, I took a picture in the daytime and I recreated it best I could. And I'm kind of estimating this thing is probably about 1,500 to 2,000 feet in length and probably about 90 feet in height.
Yikes. That's massive, Bill.
It's huge. It doesn't even, but that's the problem, Dave. You know me. It doesn't make any sense. It's like, okay, right. So let's just go for it and say it's a UFO. Okay, I'll
right.
fight and say, yeah, that's what it is.
Okay.
Why? What the hell are you doing out here? I mean, the only thing we have out here is cactus, dirt. I don't get it.
Legalized marijuana in that state too, isn't it?
Yeah.
So there you go.
Grow pot out here. That's it. They're trying to load up, but it's just one of those strange things. And it was, I think, what caught my attention about it more than anything else. It was perfectly stationary. It just wasn't moving. It was probably, I don't know, a couple hundred feet above the ground. And, out here, you can hear a dog bark from 10 miles away because there just is no sound. I mean, it's dead quiet out here. There were no motors, no prop wash, we have the Apache and the Black Hawk helicopters fly runs out here every once in a while. So there's no rotor wash. There's nothing. There's not a single sound at all. And it was moving just incredibly slow. Like when I'm saying that, I'm thinking maybe a couple miles an hour. So it couldn't have been a conventional aircraft because, nothing has a stall speed that slow. And, I thought for a minute, well, maybe it's some kind of weird drone or somebody's flying a couple drones. But when you scale it out, there's no way. There's no drone that's got that kind of a height to it. And, when I realized it's blocking out the night sky, it was a solid object from one end to the other.
And not making a sound. And I mean, you've been, just so people know, you're an engineer, not a trained choo-choo engineer. You're an engineer. You kind of understand how things work and what's known out there.
Right.
And this has baffled even you.
Oh, absolutely. And it's one of those things that you hate to say it. You see that, and then I got pretty worked up at it. And I sat down the next day and, like I said, I snapped the picture and I kind of sketched on it. And then I moved around a little bit. So what if I was standing this way? What if I was standing that way? And, it just makes you scratch your head because, Dave, we've all heard these stories. I've heard this stuff and I'm like, oh yeah, football field long, doesn't make any sound. Sure. But I don't know what to say.
Now, were there any other military craft in that area before or after this that you're aware of?
About 30, 40 minutes later, there were a couple helicopters flying off over to the southwest. I'd say maybe 5-10 miles off my property. But, that's not that out of the ordinary. So, I can't
but
say
it wasn't like
it's related to it.
Right. There weren't screaming Blackhawks flying after this thing or trying to chase it.
No.
Did it seem low enough in the sky that it should have been like below radio radar? I don't
below radar. That's very possible because I'm thinking it was maybe 200 to 500 feet off the ground and it's probably roughly 90 feet in height. So, well underneath 1,000 feet. So, very possible that it couldn't be seen by radar. And I don't know that anybody runs that much active, radar scanning out this way.
Now, is that area?
I did do it.
I was going to say, is that area where you saw it hovering over, is it accessible by you? Could you go out and see if there's a disturbance in the ground from that area?
It's just raw property out there. I didn't see anything. I mean, I did go out that way and wandered around and sure didn't see any kind of disturbances.
Yeah, that's nuts. What about in that area? Are you familiar with any cattle mutilations or other strange stories surrounding that?
Well, yeah, there's 14 documented cattle mutilations out here on the ranch where I not on my particular property, but in the adjacent properties. And most of those occurred in 2015, 2016.
So after you see something like this, is it starting to skew your perspective of getting away from it all and living out there?
Well, I love it out here. So, I mean, it's always something new and interesting. But no, I guess, people have seen these things in Phoenix, Arizona. It just seems awful strange that why you'd come out to this locality, what you'd be looking for.
Maybe they're fans of Ghost Adventures and they love that engineer guy that appears on so many of the episodes. They were looking for an autograph, Bill.
That's entirely possible. There you go. And I've racked my brain. I'm also wondering that maybe the military's testing something we've never seen before. But I don't know how you hide something like this. I'm still stunned. The only thing I can figure is it had to have moved northwest from me, just over the horizon where I couldn't see it, or whatever it did. But like I say, it's one of those things. Once I got done looking for it and I couldn't find it and couldn't catch it on camera and stuff, that's why I sent you that text message Friday night and said, you might got to tell somebody about it. And like I say, I figured you'd have at least a little different perspective than some of my other friends. Let's say that.
Let me throw this monkey wrench into the system.
Okay.
It's interesting that there's more and more of this quote unquote disclosure coming out, more and more that the government is saying something. Is this truly alien craft that they know they're no longer going to be able to contain because they're starting to make their presence known? Or the other aspect is they keep talking about meteors, asteroids, things that are getting closer and closer to Earth, and they're planning on trying a few things to blow them up before they enter our atmosphere, kind of like Armageddon, the movie. Mm-hmm. They're going to try some of this. And we've heard about these floating arcs. There have been many sightings of these 2-mile-long craft that seem to be like 20 stories tall, which again, as you said, sounds absurd. Where would you park it that it's not going to get noticed? Mm-hmm. Where would you hide something like this? But yet, is this the beginning of the protocol of how they're going to usher some of us off the Earth if something is coming our direction?
Well, hot damn, maybe they're going to plan on picking me up. They're just scouting the route out. It's interesting. As you described that is very similar to what I think I saw. Like I say, this is 75 to 90 feet height. I'm guessing, just roughly scaling it off an image and trying to go from nighttime to daytime, 1,500 to 2,400 feet in length at the minimum. So that's, you're talking a half a mile and 8-9 stories in height. So, and where it was,
massive.
To me, if you would imagine a rectangle in the sky, it was perfectly perpendicular to me. I couldn't see a top or a bottom. I could just see a right and a left edge.
Wow. Well, that's remarkable. Keep us abreast of the situation. If you suddenly vanish, Bill, we've got this on recording, so we're going to know to start watching the skies for Bill Chappell. You're going to have to figure out a way to send me signals. Use my Ovilus or something to let us know where you're at.
Absolutely.
All right. Very cool, buddy. Stay safe, and thanks a lot for stopping by and sharing your tale with us today.
All right, guys. You have a nice day.
You too, Bill. Tim, again, you and I read a lot of stories, and it's easy to poke fun, and it's easy to kind of talk about it tongue in cheek sometimes. Sometimes we take it very seriously. When I've got a guy like Bill Chappell who creates equipment to test the theories that people put forth regarding ghosts, and we'll tell you, I built this, modified it to the specifications of what people think, and, monitoring these ranges for audio, visual spectrum, whatever. And I can't explain what's happening or what we're capturing on this. He won't go as far to say it's a ghost. He just won't, which is funny for a guy that's been involved in the field for 20 years now. But then to come to me and tell me that, this isn't the first time he's seen something in the skies near his property. And he sends me photos from time to time that are pretty weird. But this one really had him disturbed because of the massive size. When I got the first message, he's like, I have to tell someone who's not going to think I'm nuts. I think I just saw a craft that might be between 1 to 2 miles long.
Well, I don't blame him for being disturbed. If I saw something that big, I'd be disturbed as well.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, and it's not, believe it or not, that's not even the first time. If you remember right, I think it was probably the late 90s, early 2000s. There was a craft similar to that seen over home furniture in Lakeville.
Yeah.
And you led on to what exactly, I think it was MUFON here in Minnesota thought what that craft was, and that they thought it was some sort of a transport, or,
Right.
But much like you also alluded to, I do honestly believe that something like that is a man-made thing that for years we've been preparing, or whether it be the space program or the military has been, as you know, NASA's been talking about, getting ready to repopulate on a different planet. We've been this talk. If we've had casual talk in the media, then you have to have known that for decades behind the scenes, our government has talked about repopulating on different planets. If they're talking about repopulating on different planets, then they know something that we don't.
Here's my problem with that theory. If they're planning on repopulating other planets and I have not been contacted yet because of my prolific nature of being able to inseminate any woman I stare at for more than 35 seconds, I don't believe it's really happening. If they really wanted to repopulate the Earth, I think I would already be on board with Dennis Rodman and
oh, they're not talking about
others.
Spawning on other planets. They're just talking about getting the hell off this one.
Yeah, I know. I got you.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Well,
let's.
But just to finish the thought, and that is this. There's obviously something that, and we've talked about this a little bit in the past. Mother Earth is a big old dog about to shake the ticks off her back, I think is basically what they're thinking. And that is that she's not about to, keep taking over population well. And I think they know that, and they have signs of that, and everything from the volcano over at Yosemite to, this big super volcano, to other signs. And I'm not, don't think I'm trying to, for the, climate deniers or whatever, don't think I'm trying to shove that down your throat, because I'm not. What I'm talking about is real tangible signs that overpopulation is stressing the Earth.
Right.
And real tangible signs that the Earth that resources are being depleted. Oil resources are being depleted. There's the oceans are legitimately being filled with plastic. Things that eventually we are going to deplete this planet's resources. So they're thinking we need to get off this planet within the next, maybe 40, 50 years. So there's something that they need to do. And it's not going to be us, the people who are adults or middle-aged, that need to worry about it. We're going to be dead and gone. It's going to be, children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren that are going to have other refuge from this planet. So they're building those crafts now, or trying to figure out the engines, the transports, and how to get off this planet and get to other planets that are similar to this, so that they continue to live and that the human race doesn't get extinct, doesn't get wiped out.
We'll see. It's going to be playing out. I don't know if I mentioned this movie. I'm getting so old, I can't remember. I've seen it. I don't remember if I mentioned it when you're talking about the overpopulation of the Earth and what's going on. There's an interesting movie that I watched with my daughter the other day called What Happened to Monday.
Yeah, you did mention that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a really interesting take on it. Glenn Close is in it. Willem Dafoe. Then you've got the actress, Noomi Rapace, who plays the Setman siblings. She's from the girl with the dragon tattoo. Mm-hmm. That's an interesting take on, will we get to the point where everyone is only allowed one child? And if you have more than one child, they are going to take your others and put them into stasis, as they called it in the movie. I don't want to tell you what happens, but it's intriguing. Go check out What Happened to Monday, and feel free to email me, folks. Dave@darknessradio.com. Let me know what your thoughts are on it. Did you get a chance to see it yet, Tim?
No, I haven't. I know what a lot of people's thoughts about are going to be about it, but and that is, China has the one-child policy, and a lot of people would say, well, as a democratic republic, you would never vote something like that in, nor would you let something like that happen.
Right, but at one point, if we are truly running out of resources, is something going to have to happen? It's fascinating. It's an interesting movie. Check it out. What Happened to Monday? I give that one again. I can't remember what I read. I think I gave it 3 3/4 stars out of 5. But it's an interesting one to check out. Speaking of UFOs and strange shit, this is coming from Entrepreneur Magazine. A SpaceX rocket almost collided with a UFO. This is what NASA is saying. According to reports from the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA, a SpaceX rocket came close to colliding with an unidentified flying object. The team made up of Megan MacArthur, Shane Kimbrough, Thomas Pesquet, and Akiko Hoshide was informed by the United States Space Command about a possible collision with an unknown object. NASA decided to inform the crew because there would not be enough time to carry out an evasion maneuver, as experts, as explained by the U.S. Space Agency. For this reason, the team donned their pressurized suits as a precaution. Fortunately, there was no collision, as the unidentified object was 45 kilometers from the spacecraft, and the spacecraft finally reached the International Space Station on April 24th to join the Crew 2 mission. So why is this not bigger news? I mean, it's appearing in Entrepreneur Magazine, which is weird to consider to begin with, but a SpaceX rocket almost collided with something unknown, but that they were watching it unfurl in real time. That's bizarre. I don't know. All right, let's stay closer to home for this next story. Tim, you sent this to me. This is unnerving. Remember all those creepy clown sightings that caused mass hysteria across the world back in, 2016? Well, it appears the clowns have returned, and they're in Annandale, Minnesota. Now, a post from the city's Facebook account on Friday makes it clear there's been a rash of these weird sightings. It says, City of Annandale, Minnesota, a message from the Annandale Police Department. Annandale residents' concerns about a clown in the area have been brought to my attention. The Annandale Police is aware of this individual, and we continue to monitor this situation. That's bizarre that they're seeing this. In order to take any action about individuals who are potentially concerning, we need to justify a legal basis on the terms alarm or annoyance regarding the conduct someone is engaged in. If an actual complaint to the police is not made, it affects our ability appropriately to deal with the situation. This has been and will continue to be how we successfully collaborate with our citizens to keep our neighborhoods safe. If you have concerns about the clown or any other public safety matter, please, as always, do not hesitate to reach out to us directly. We welcome the opportunity to assist you in these matters. Sincerely, Pete Standifer, the Annandale Chief of Police.
Which just goes to show you, if you think about it carefully, most people in rural Minnesota behind the times by 2 to 3 or 4 years, if not 10, because that clown trend is over.
Speaking of clown trends, today, Tim, Cinco de Mayo, and tonight, if you go check out, I'm going to be doing Cinco de Makeover 2, Rise of the Monsters with Jeff Belanger, his daughter, and my daughter. They're going to do our makeup while we do a little back and forth and take some questions from audience members. It's going to be a live stream that takes place today. So go check out Jeff Belanger and the Speakeasy. It's going to be a lot of fun, but our daughters this time are tasked. Last time they tasked with making us beautiful, and my daughter Pacey did a remarkable job. This time, my younger daughter Ripley is stepping up to the plate to try to monsterize me and turn me into something creepy, which is going to be hard when you've got a face that looks like it's chiseled from marble, finely hued marble. And what are you laughing about, Tim? What's so funny about that?
Oh, no, continue.
Anyway, Cinco de Makeover 2, Rise of the Monsters, Go check it out. Make sure you watch it today and have some fun. It'll be up and available on the Speakeasy YouTube page as well, Jeff Belanger's YouTube page, and social media, and I'll have it on my social media pages. So there's a lot to take in and a lot of cool stuff to check. All right, let's get back into a couple news stories here. Oh God, here comes another bullet for Tim's ammunition belt of AI taking over the world. The U.S. Army is looking into using animal muscle tissue as a means to move robots. The Army Research Laboratory believes its bots could use real muscle, which allows most living things to move and manipulate their environments, instead of mechanical arms, wheels, tracks, and other systems to travel across the battlefield. The concept, which some might find disturbing, is an example of the new field of biohybrids. Today's military robots, particularly ground-based robots, navigate the battlefield on wheels and tracks, methods of locomotion copied over from human-occupied vehicles. But researchers are reaching a point where they're experiencing diminishing returns in the design of these robots, with wheels as their primary locomotor and batteries as their centralized power system. That's according to NextGov reports. Modern Army robots use batteries that power motors, which then drive axles and turn wheels. A biohybrid-powered robot would replace this entire system with lab-grown organic muscle tissue that might power artificial legs and other limbs. Electrical impulses or chemical actuation would actually control the muscles. One of the major advantages of using organic muscle tissue is its inherent flexibility. Muscles and tendons can pull, flex, and give us an animal that moves over mixed terrain, and especially as it encounters unexpected problems, like the humans trying to uprise and battle them. I know that's what Tim's thinking.
Yes.
Dr. Dean Culver, a research scientist at the Army Research Lab, explains it like this. If you run through a field and your foot steps into a rabbit hole, even before the signal from your foot has reached your brain to say, oh my gosh, I'm in a rabbit hole, your body is already moving to accommodate that sudden change. Part of that is the way that control systems are designed in organisms. That's obviously really amazing. But another part of that is the ability of muscles and tendons to bend and flex a little bit and offer those control systems an opportunity to adapt and reset. So that is a huge capability that we could offer. A wheel-bound robot can't do that, instead relying on shock absorbers to make up for the sudden shift. Robots who are obviously in Army applications going to go into unknown and unpredictable environments, they need to be able to adapt to things as they weren't planning for them, Culver said. So that's a big part of this effort as well. So biohybrid robots could show great promise. This sounds like the Daleks or the Cybermen from Doctor Who, and that has not worked out well for anybody.
Well, no, technically not.
No. That's a little creepy. I'm not going to lie. Speaking of creepy, let's do this. We're going to take a quick respite and give you a chance to enjoy this, a brand new episode of Theater of the Mind. Today's Theater of the Mind is from an anonymous source sharing a real experience with the supernatural, in which they have changed the names to protect the innocent. Today's story, Ouija Believe This. In the summer of 1966, Graham and Frances Marshall, a couple in their 20s, bought a cottage in Port Sunlight and decided to hold a housewarming party. The couple were both actors who worked in television, radio, and theater, and many of the 30 guests, all people in their 20s and early 30s, also worked in showbiz. The party started at 7:30 p.m. Around 10:30, two scruffily dressed men in their 30s, said to have been beatniks, gate-crashed the party and started handing out Purple Heart pills and cannabis joints. One of these gate-crashers, who gave his name as Anton, told the bemused revelers, "Hey people, let go of your square middle-class morals and be a little hedonistic. Take your clothes off and discover free love with one another." The partygoers remained repressed in the eyes of Anton and his friends, but as the night wore on, more and more alcohol and other recreational substances were consumed. The merrymakers began to let their hair down just a little. By 2 a.m, the party had degenerated into a veritable orgy, with many of the guests dancing in the nude, and the beatnik Anton then took things further when he cleared a coffee table of drinks and snacks. He placed 26 Scrabble tiles in an alphabetic circle on the coffee table and positioned an upturned wine glass in the center of the circle. The record player was turned on, and Anton invited 13 guests to participate in operating the makeshift Ouija board. 13 index fingers were placed one on top of the other on the inverted foot of the glass, and people outside the circle looked on with a mixture of bemusement and fear as the sitters engaged in the Ouija session. Anton then looked up at the ceiling and solemnly intoned, "Spirits beyond, we invite you to speak to us through this glass. Please, give us a sign that you are here in the midst of our company." A hush descended upon the room, and a strange noise which sounded like a howling wind was heard in the chimney place. Even though it was a warm summer's night and not even the slightest zephyr about. The windows of the lounge were open, admitting the full light of the moon, and the curtains were still. The howl in the fireplace slowly died away, and Anton said to those gathered around with their fingers on the glass, "You must not ask the spirits about health, your health or anyone else's health, and you must certainly not mention whether someone will die. Also, you must not mention that deity of the Christians. You know, the one that begins with a capital G and ends with a D. So remember that, folks, when you ask your questions." Everyone seemed scared, and the sitters looked at one another, stuck for questions, until a very tipsy red-haired girl dressed only in her underwear asked out loud,
"Will I ever marry?"
Straight away, the coffee table vibrated for just a few seconds, and then the wine glass slowly moved across the board. It spelled out N. Oh, no.
"Why not? That's mean."
And Anton warned, "Don't be flippin' with the spirits, love." The glass moved steadily about, and at first no one could read what was being mysteriously dictated. So the glass traced the words out again. Dead, 21. Bye-bye. The red-haired girl swore and backed away from the coffee table.
"I'm not gonna die at 21.
She cried and fell back onto the sofa. She had just turned 20. "Quick!" yelled Anton. "She's broken the circle. Someone take her place." "Tell me a secret," said a drunken young man, taking the redhead's place. As soon as he placed his index finger on the glass, it slid about and said, "Judy is having a baby." There was a sharp intake from a girl named Judy, and her boyfriend turned to her and asked, "Are you? I've only been with you for a week." The glass then spelt out, "A killer is among you, bad man." "Who is the killer, Spirit?" an intrigued Anton asked, and someone shouted, "What a load of baloney! Spirit, you're an idiot!" The glass started to vibrate and then exploded into shards that cut most of the 13 sitters. The coffee table lifted into the air and threw itself at the man who had just called the spirit an idiot. A grandfather clock shot across the lounge, and people stampeded out of the room in a panic. A chair seemingly walked across the floor, and all pandemonium broke out. An upright piano in an upstairs room launched itself out the window, along with the Chesterfield and the partygoers. Many of them half naked, they ran to their cars outside the house. Some people were pushed through windows by invisible hands. The couple who owned the house ended up moving elsewhere after that Ouija terror because something kept pushing them down the stairs. The house is still haunted, they say, by shadowy figures to this day. Very cool. Keep those stories coming, folks. Dave@darknessradio.com. Just email me your story. Write it as a narrative. And we want to hear your real-life encounters with the supernatural. It's been a while since we had a good Ouija board story. Thank you for sharing that. All right, Tim. this may be a new element that we have to be a little worried about in the common destruction of humanity. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
From Microsoft News, mysterious Havana syndrome attacks are now being documented in the United States. Leaders of the Senate Intelligence Committee confirmed cases of the mysterious Havana syndrome, instances of neurological harm to U.S. personnel from direct energy attacks are on the rise. That's what they said in a Friday hearing a few days ago. Over the past 2 years, 2 attacks have occurred in the U.S., including one in close proximity to the White House. Senators Mark Warren, Democrat from Virginia, and Marco Rubio, a Republican from Florida, the chair and vice chair of the committee, respectively, said in a statement that they plan to investigate the pattern of attacks and work with the CIA to identify who is behind them. Now, Havana syndrome refers to a series of invisible attacks against U.S. personnel, first reported in 2016 in Havana, Cuba, when U.S. diplomats began to experience neurological problems like insomnia and vertigo. Since then, about 40 government officials, mostly employed by the CIA or State Department, have been attacked, reports The Hill's Rebecca Beich, with sometimes debilitating symptoms. The majority of the attacks have been against officials stationed in other countries, but federal agencies are also investigating 2 neurological attacks that occurred on U.S. soil, including one from November of last year that occurred alarmingly close to the White House, according to CNN. The other attack occurred in 2019 against a White House official in a Virginia suburb of Washington, D.C., per CNN. Warner and Rubio committed to work with the recently confirmed CIA Director William Burns, who they say has dedicated agency focus to the attacks, as well as to provide medical and financial support for victims. For nearly 5 years now, we have been aware of reports of mysterious attacks on United States government personnel in Havana, Cuba, and around the world. They said in a statement, this pattern of attacking our fellow citizens serving our government appears to be increasing. The Senate Intelligence Committee intends to get to the bottom of this. The statement continued, we have already held fact-finding hearings on these debilitating attacks, many of which result in medically confirmed cases of traumatic brain injury. And we'll end up doing more. So we actually did a couple episodes. I don't know if you remember this, Tim, was about 7, 8, 9 years ago, about citizens claiming to be the focus of these energy attacks.
Yes.
And it was, they did a public hearing on this. They had every walk of life, from stay-at-home moms, stay-at-home dads, to lawyers, doctors, military personnel, all speaking their mind that this is a real concern because they are being affected and impacted. Now we're seeing that some attacks are taking place on U.S. soil to our military and our political environs. That's very disturbing. So is it domestic terrorism? Somebody here doing this to us? Is it a kind of is it the earth, as you said, shaking the ticks off, releasing these magnetic strobes that are affecting and impacting people? Is it aliens? Is there something effectually attacking us here? Is it privatized groups? That's what the groups have talked about in the past on our show. That was one of the more chilling episodes. And I always forget about talking about that when we do our anniversary shows of the episodes that kind of stood out. Listening to those stories and people that have been attacked, that was really disturbing and got to me. I got to be honest with you. Yeah,
it is a disturbing episode. And psychologically, it's really a mind screw. I mean, to be attacked out of nowhere and not know who you're going to fight or where you even begin to fight is the ultimate invulnerability.
Oh, well, here's a story right in Tim's wheelhouse from Wrestling News. Drew McIntyre recalls being told by a fortune teller at age 10 that he would be famous. Drew McIntyre's destiny was revealed to him at 10 when he was told by a fortune teller that he would, in fact, be famous. The WWE star recalled in a new interview. McIntyre spoke with the Daily Star for a new interview discussing his WWE career, his interest in the paranormal, and more. some of the questions and things posed by him. He said, I had my reading and she went into a lot of detail. I was conscious of not saying a word and not giving any clues. And she said I'd be a very famous entertainer. All I heard from famous entertainer was that I'm going to make it to the WWE. It's official. She said it, so it's got to be so. Now, he also says that according to his interest in the paranormal, he was into strange things when he was a kid. Wrestling was his biggest love, but he was a fan of the X-Files and the paranormal. There was a magazine he used to pick up that covered all the strange interests, the paranormal, UFOs, deadly diseases, spontaneous combustion, the most random stuff you could think of. 1 month's issue had a sample letter for the FBI to get documents under the Freedom of Information Act. So I filled it out, put it in my pocket money drawer, or it put in my pocket money and sent it. Never thought much of it until a few weeks later when I got home and my dad was waiting for me with a big dossier, 5 inches thick, asking, Drew, why are the FBI in America sending you these documents? On visiting haunted locations, he said, I stayed overnight at a place called the Myrtles Plantation, which is one of the most haunted houses in America. I was in the room and the temperature kept changing and a couple of things flew across the room. Once I was staying in Birkenhead near Liverpool in an old house that was being used as a hospital during the war. I'd been told the house was haunted. I go to sleep and I feel a finger on my arm. I open my eyes, but there's nothing there. Then I feel a grab on my arm, and I remembered where I was. I ended up leaping to my feet, and I ran outside. So kind of an interesting little story. So WWE wrestler
was
telling his encounters.
Was the fortune teller who was there that day named Vince McMahon? Because I don't know if you know the story or not, but from the minute that Drew McIntyre walked into WWE, he was called... Even before he walked out his first time down the ramp at his first WWE show, Vince McMahon was in the ring and he introduced Drew McIntyre and called him the Chosen One and said that one day he was going to be WWE champion. So technically, he came in with a silver spoon in his mouth.
Very cool.
Yeah. So when you come in basically being crowned, as the eventual, I mean, he had a harder, he didn't start out and end up being, the golden boy right away. He had some, in his journey to eventually becoming WWE champion, he had some really bad gimmicks and he had some hard times there. He was in a really bad gimmick called 3MB, which was 3-man band, which was 3 wrestlers that basically played air guitar. I'm not making this up. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Good times.
But yeah,
well, maybe he told Vince about that, and Vince made up a big deal about it to give him the backstory of being the chosen one. Then,
no. Vince saw Drew McIntyre as he was coming up through their minor league system. Saw his height, saw his build, saw the way he looked, and Vince, of course, is very proud of his Irish American heritage, and Drew being from Scotland, he felt this affinity for him being, European and all, and thought this kid is going straight to the top. He just
very cool
liked everything about him. And he thought, this is the golden boy. This is the golden goose. This is the kid who eventually is going to be my centerpiece of my organization. So he basically crowned him as he came in, but it just went terribly, terribly wrong. And then eventually they released Drew McIntyre, and he went into the Indies, and he did a turn in Impact Wrestling where he became their champion. And then Vince kind of kept his eye on him as he was going through his turn in the Indies, and then said, you know what, we got to get this guy back into our organization. And then as they got him back in, he went to it's not really their minor league system, but their developmental system called NXT. He became the NXT champion. They brought him up to Raw, and he became the WWE champion. So there you go. There's a long history of Drew McIntyre. But yeah, he eventually got his WrestleMania moment. He beat Brock Lesnar and became the WWE champion.
Wow. All from a palm reader telling him what they saw in his fortune.
And I still think that palm reader was Vince McMahon.
Our next article, Brits are obsessed with aliens and desperate to see one. That's right. People in the UK do more internet searches about aliens than any other European country, and they're dying to know what they look like. We know that Brits, of course, love football, roast dinners, soaps, the royal family, weather, moaning about parking tickets, and it seems they can also add aliens to this elite list. To mark World Paranormal Day, which was May 3rd, new stats released by PsychicWorld.com has found that compared to other European nations, the UK is preoccupied with searching for aliens. Well, at least online. Brits make an average of 624,000 searches relating to aliens every year, the equivalent to 1,710 Google searches per day. Second is France, with our neighbors across the channel making 408,000 annual online searches about aliens, which is a huge drop of about 35%. Not far behind in third place is Poland, who clock up 372,000 online searches every year. Yeah, but Poland, they're just looking up how to spell UFO.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Come on.
Oh, no.
It's a Polak joke. My dad would get it. He's a Polak. He thinks it's funny. Anyway, one Brit who believes very strongly in the existence of extraterrestrials is Robbie Williams. In 2018, he revealed that once a UFO had flown so close to him, he could have hit it with a tennis ball. Speaking to Australian show 60 Minutes, he said, "I've seen one right above me. If I got a tennis ball out, I could have hit it. I've seen a few strange things. I've experienced phenomena I cannot explain." 2010, Robbie splashed out $7 million on a mansion in Compton Bassett, Wiltshire, which is well known for being a hotbed of mysterious crop circles. There you go, Robbie. I wish I had that kind of money.
Now, if he's going to hit a UFO with a tennis ball, isn't he afraid they're going to turn around and shoot lasers back at him?
They're just going to bat it back to him. That's all.
That's the best that can happen.
A man home alone was petrified by a ghost after hearing creepy crying noises. That's right. A man has complained of mysterious crying sounds creeping him out when he is home alone and asked Reddit on a ghosts forum for help identifying the spine-tingling noise. In a video, he shows his trailer, which apparently has no living person inside other than himself. But as he records, a deep wailing noise comes from somewhere in the building. And as he walks through his rooms, he cannot find the source of the sound. It then intensifies into a prolonged howl. The Reddit user said he was being besieged by creepy crying sounds and explained, "I'm home alone. I live in a trailer park where mountain lions are not a thing." I don't know if that's really how he speaks, but I'm going to give him that. "The first few seconds you can hear the crying sounds. The rest is me exploring my house." He added, "The neighbors have a parrot, but it only screams out, 'Mom!' Not anything like this." How do you know? How do you know? The video was upvoted hundreds of times, and there was a broad consensus that the noises, although definitely creepy, were most likely not paranormal. One person wrote, "Definitely a cat of some sort or a goblin. Either way, salt the entryways." Another person said, "Did you look for a stray cat under your trailer or near it? It kind of sounds like a cat." And that's what I thought when I heard it. It's that really weird noise they make.
Yeah.
Creepy, but I would assume it's just a cat. That's another person weighed in on. What is it with people that anytime they hear a strange noise, "Oh my God, it must be ghosts," blasted someone else? I don't know. It is weird sounding. I'll have that story up on our website. Go to darknessradio.com. Click on the news tab and you'll find it there. Following up on that, a TikToker mocks a creepy doll in the woods and ends up getting a paranormal message later in the day. That's right. A TikToker has learned not to mess with things you don't understand after receiving a paranormal message from a creepy doll. In a video, Isaac Martinez filmed himself coming across a spooky Chucky-style marionette doll saying, "We just found this guy in the middle of the woods, no lie," before jokingly asking if, in the caption, "Is it haunted though?" According to Isaac, it wasn't too long before he got an answer, as over the next week he began experiencing a strange string of misfortunes. "I did not think this doll was going to be haunted because we made fun of it, and a week later my car got crashed into, my camera starts glitching, and my dog starts barking at nothing." As further evidence of paranormal activity, this one might be the biggest stretch of all, Tim. Isaac shared a photo from a takeout Taco Bell receipt that came to $6.66, Tim. That's right. 666, the number of the feast. The TikToker's experience soon caught people's attention, with his post gathering more than 5 million views. Isaac comments were quickly filled with Christian cross emojis and pleas for the doll to avoid spreading its negative energy. This doll's freaky looking, dude.
Yeah.
It's uncomfortable. Some users seem to think that the TikToker should have known better, with one person commenting, "Do y'all not watch scary movies? Why would you mess with them? You might be a redneck if find a creepy marionette and take it home." Another urged him to go back and spray it with holy water. That being said, not everyone was convinced of Isaac's tale. Hard to believe, Tim. There were some skeptics out there. One person brushed off the fears, saying people can't drive, phones glitch, dogs bark, and that's not life being haunted. How dare they be so dismissive, Tim?
Makes good sense to me.
You and your sense. It is creepy, though. It's a freaky looking doll. Yes, I have it up on the website. Go check for yourself. Just go to darknessradio.com, click on the news tab. Let's see what else is there. Is the White House haunted? Jen Psaki. Am I saying that right? Psaki, Tim?
Sure.
P-S-A-K-I? P-S-A-K-I? Or is it just Jen Psaki?
Say it again. P-S...
A-K-I.
A-K-I? That would be Saki.
Okay. Is the White House haunted? Jen Psaki seems spooked by creaking noises during her news briefing. Let's see what she has to say. When White House press secretary Jen Psaki's press conference was interrupted by spooky noises on Tuesday, April 27th, she joked to the press pool saying, well, maybe it's Lincoln's ghost. The Psaki was taking questions from reporters about new CDC guidelines that let vaccinated people go mask-free outdoors, provided it was not a crowded setting. A long creaking noise suddenly sounded from over her left shoulder. The sound made Psaki quick glance over her shoulder. However, she kept her calm and reassured the room, joking about a supernatural probability. Have no fear, the ceiling is not falling that I'm aware of. It's just an old building, Psaki said. Maybe it's Lincoln's ghost. That's quite something. Maybe it is, she joked with a reporter. But the reporters would not have her shenanigans, Tim.
I bet.
She continued to take questions. 25 minutes into the daily briefing, the mysterious sound is heard again. She was just about to get into her skepticism regarding the COVID-19 vaccination process when the noise interrupted her briefing, again engaging with the COVID team, ensuring that we are taking the right steps forward. We have a plan that's being implemented across the country right now, a very robust... That's when the sound came out right there, Tim. She began before the alleged spirit of Honest Abe interrupted her for a second time. Okay, maybe it's former President Lincoln's ghost. I'm going to just go with that. Psaki admitted that it was a little spooky before leaving the press briefing room. However, soon after she left the room, reporters who were willing to play Ghostbusters quickly found the source of the noise, and it was far less paranormal than initially guessed to be, Tim. Old Abe's ghost makes for a better story, but the creaking during the WH briefing, that's White House, Tim, was just a swiveling RoboCam.
Not good.
Jam. Now, is the White House haunted? Well, former President Ronald Reagan to First Lady Michelle Obama had overnight guest Winston Churchill have all reported experiencing spooky happenings at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. In 2009, school children who were visiting the White House were told by their First Lady Michelle Obama that she and then President Barack Obama sometimes heard strange noises in the hallway at night. There were also times when Obama family members felt like something was gnawing or chewing on their feet. I imagine what President Lincoln was really proud to have an African-American family in the White House after the sacrifices he made. Folklorist Latanzi Shatuka, an associate professor at George Mason University, told VOA News. But as far as the unexplained sounds and feelings, I would chalk them up to there just being spiritual energy in the house from people who've lived there before. Reagan, who led the country in 1981 to 1989, said that his dog barked frantically at the entrance of the Lincoln bedroom and refused to go inside. Reagan's daughter and son-in-law also said they saw an apparition in that room. Churchill also claimed to have witnessed Lincoln's ghost when he stayed in the Lincoln bedroom. It was a really well-known bed called the Lincoln bed that was purchased by Mary Todd Lincoln during the time in the White House, and it's unlikely that he actually slept in the bed, but other presidents have slept in the bed, says White House Historical Association historian Lena Mann. And of course, since that was a space where he had an office, it is known as the Lincoln Room. So there you have it. It's just the camera, Tim. Just the camera. Don't get nervous.
I won't.
Yeah. That'd be kind of creepy to hear when you don't know what's going on.
Yeah, it'd be a little unnerving. Yeah, I can see that.
I like that she's like, it's just a ghost of Abraham Lincoln. Nothing to see here. We're going to California for our next story. A haunted Toys R Us in the San Francisco Bay Area, where ghosts have been photographed and strange paranormal activities have been reported, will make for an REI sporting goods store now. The defunct store at 130 East El Camino Real in Sunnyvale is expected to reopen this fall under management of REI. Toys R Us went out of business back in 2018. Employees at the new store will hopefully not have to deal with some of the scary phenomena that were reported by their toy-selling predecessors. This was all over the news. I don't know if you remember that, Tim.
I do.
The haunted Toys R Us.
Yeah.
Things would fly off the shelves. Toys would go rolling down the aisles by themselves at night. They had fixed cameras filming this weird shit happening as it unfolded. Mm-hmm. Now, since the Toys R Us was built in Sunnyvale in 1970, workers have reported items flying from the shelves for no reasons, water faucets turning on and off by themselves, and a famous photograph circulated by Ashley Hall, who runs a website called Paranormal Guide, shows a seance being held at the store. Taken with an infrared sensitive camera, the photo shows the seated group together with a figure standing at the back watching. Yes, I will have this article and those photographs up so that you can see them as well. And it is weird. But it looks like somebody in like 70s bell-bottom jeans and those thick-soled shoes, just kind of standing off in the background watching. Taken with an infrared sensitive camera, the photo shows a seated group together with a figure in the back. No one present remembers seeing anyone standing during the seance, and other cameras shooting the same view all failed to capture this figure. According to legend, the store has been haunted since 1881, when a rancher by the name of Johnny Johnson died of axe wounds while working in an orchard at the site that would later become the store. Johnson accidentally stabbed himself with the axe after he was rejected by his unrequited love interest, the daughter of his boss, Elizabeth Murphy. John's apparition is said to have been spotted in the aisles of the old toy store, though he had been mostly harmless to the employees and customers. The story was reenacted for a made-for-TV movie created by Sylvia Browne, the late author who claimed to be a psychic medium. But an investigation by sfgate.com shows that the details of this urban legend just don't stand up to scrutiny. Elizabeth Murphy didn't run off to wed a man in the early 1880s. Instead, she had already been married by 1863. California census data also does not reveal any farm laborer by the name of Johnson, nor are there any accounts of someone dying by the way of wound caused by an axe on the Murphy property. So that's good news for the new tenant, REI, who did not mention their new location's notorious past when announcing plans to open. Our store team is incredibly excited about the relocation and eager to get more involved with the Sunnyvale community, said Kirk Peterson, REI's regional director for Northern California. So we'll have to see if suddenly stories start coming out of REI of a haunting, Tim.
For a minute there, as you were telling that story, I thought, originally in 1881, it was Ye Old Toys R Us.
Yes.
But
yes.
No, then
Toy Shoppy.
Yeah, Ye Old Toy Shoppy. And then it sorted itself out in my mind. So thank God for that.
All came together.
Yeah.
Just a handful of stories left. We've got to get through them here quickly. Let's jump to the next one, shall we? The most haunted house in Ireland is for sale, and the ghosts are included, Tim.
Oh, good.
Attention, all fans of paranormal phenomena. Ireland. Yeah.
There you go.
Ireland's most haunted house is on the market, and its history is a spooky one, to be sure. Here's a real estate offer that has not gone unnoticed. It is one of the most haunted houses in the world, called Loftus Hall. The property is located on the Hookhead Peninsula in the southeast of Ireland. It covers 63 hectares, I don't know how to say that, and is located near a lighthouse. Over the centuries, it's undergone several transformations. Today, it has about 22 rooms. If you have a lot of friends, you'll have plenty of places to have a scary party and see some poltergeist activity. On Loftus Hall's website, you can read up on the manor's frightful history. It all began in the 18th century. Back then, the Tottenham family owned the location. It was a crossroads for many a sailor looking for a place to rest after sailing the turbulent waters off the peninsula. One evening, a stranger knocked on Loftus Hall's gates seeking refuge after his boat was blown onto the beach by a storm. During his stay, the Tottenham daughter, Anne, began to show a growing interest in the stranger. One evening, as they were both sat at the table to play a card game, she dropped one of them to the floor. She bent down to pick it up. She suddenly realized that the stranger had cloven hooves instead of feet, one of the marks of the devil. She then began to scream in terror as the stranger disappeared through the ceiling in the guise of a fireball. Anne was traumatized by this event. What a snowflake, Tim. You play poker with a man you're attracted to only to see he has cloven feet and then turns into a fireball and goes through your roof, and you're going to be upset by that? Psh.
Well, I mean, you know.
Her parents can...
Cloven hooves aren't exactly the Air Jordans of their time. You know what I'm saying?
I gotcha.
Yeah, they're not fashionable.
Her parents confined her to one of the many bedrooms of the house so that none may be witness to her madness. 2 years on, she was dead. But according to the family and staff, her spirit remained haunting the house. The Tottenham called on a priest, Father Thomas Broders, so that he may exorcise the house. The house was reopened to the public to visits in 2012. Since then, many people crossing Loftus Hall's threshold claim to have been witness to paranormal events. In 2014, the house made headlines thanks to Thomas Beavis's story. During the visit, the 21-year-old had taken a photo which could be seen of two women-shaped figures looking like ghosts from behind a window. These images have gone worldwide. And yes, I have the images up on our site, so you can go find the article there. How much is it, Tim? Just $2.2 million.
To see the images online?
No, that's free because I love these people.
Okay.
But if you want to buy Loftus Hall, just $2.2 million. That's all.
I see. Yeah.
How about this? Eerie footage has been captured inside a family's Sydney home, and it sparks some ghostly speculation. That's right. It is ghostly activity inside a Sydney home. So not only are everything outside in Australia trying to kill you, but maybe the ghosts inside as well. The mom says it's not the first curious behavior they've experienced in their house either. Footage shared to popular Facebook groups showed the stationary rocker, which is one of those little kids' swings you put them in, to put them in front of the TV and rock and help them fall asleep.
And give them whiplash?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, God, how fast do you have it going? Footage shared to the Facebook group shows the stationary rocker suddenly switching on in the middle of the night and begin moving back and forward on its own. The last 2 nights, our son's baby swing just began turning itself on and off numerous times. My partner just caught it on video. We've watched things fall over on our dining room table. I've woken up to a man standing over my side of the bed while I was pregnant. I've had clothes fall off. I had clothes fall off the clothes horse. What the hell is a clothes horse? In front of our dining room table where the activity always was. The mom says she doesn't feel unsafe, but is curious to know what is behind the strange behavior. She also reiterated that there is no remote control or batteries for the swing, which is secondhand and more than 10 years old. Social media users were baffled by the vision, with multiple suggesting this was a ghost attempting to make contact with the family. Tim, you know what they say. If the swing is a rockin', don't bother knocking.
Yep.
No, they don't say that.
Oh, they don't?
Yeah. Baker Mayfield's back in the news, Tim.
Yeah. They actually Colin Cowherd doubled down last week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw that. Do you have the audio on that by any chance?
I do, but I got to get him hooked up here in order to play it for you.
I'll just go ahead and read the story. Cleveland Browns quarterback Baker Mayfield is a believer in the paranormal. Mayfield went mega viral in early March when he claimed that he saw a UFO flying around Texas. Well, he's apparently a legit believer in the unknown. I'm a firm believer in UFOs and Sasquatch. They're real. I saw them. I'm glad the Navy finally confirmed some more pictures. Now everybody doesn't think I'm crazy, I believe, Mayfield told the media on Monday, according to the Associated Press. Honestly, Mayfield coming out as a pro-aliens guy is by far and away the most entertaining thing about the guy, according to this article. It's not a secret that I love dragging the dude for his clownish antics, but I can't hate on a guy for wanting to know what's out there. Right now, aliens are all the rage in the media. Ever since the Tic Tac video was released, there's been a growing interest among people about what it is that's flying in our skies above us. And, of course, Tucker Carlson has talked about it, Tim, which means it must be true. I don't know. Tucker Carlson confuses me, Tim. Sometimes he feels like he's, so far out there and cuckoo in the nut, and then other times he talks about the stuff we like, and then I want to validate him. I'm confused.
He's a confusing guy. Yeah.
Kind of like falling for your first cousin. You know it's taboo, but you just can't help it. I mean, I've heard. So that's what's going on. Baker Mayfield, believer in Sasquatch and aliens. And finally, Tim, The Conjuring 3 is just around the corner. Ed and Lorraine Warren return with their most haunting case yet. And I don't know if you've seen the trailer for this. It looks really good.
Yeah.
I'm only watch that one trailer. I'm not watching another thing because I want to be surprised by the movie. The trailer of the much-awaited horror movie of the year is here. The Warner Brothers Pictures released the trailer for The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, back on Thursday and gave a preview of another spine-chilling story filled with horrifying twists as Lorraine and Ed Warren jump back to the screens. With one of the most sensational cases of Ed and Lorraine Warren, Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga will return to play the role of real-life paranormal investigators, as seen in the previous Conjuring installments. From the looks of it, the trailer has an eerie feel to it, but what's interesting is that this time the paranormal drama will be dragged to the courts, where it fights logic and reason. The trailer shows Ed and Lorraine Warren investigating a murder case where the suspect claims to be under demonic possession when he committed the murder. The Warrens will again be seen fighting the dark creatures while trying to prove the existence of the devil to the legal courthouse. Conjuring series is inspired by the real-life cases of the paranormal investigators, and this Conjuring 3 is also inspired by a real-life case from 1981. The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, is set to release in theaters on June 4th, followed by a release on HBO Max. It looks good, looks creepy. I kind of hope that, I know Lorraine, we lost her last year.
Mm-hmm.
I really hope that they continue doing some more of these Conjuring movies, because I think they are some of the best horror movies to be released, period. They're just really well done, really well acted. Obviously there's a lot of Hollywood.
There is.
But man, are they entertaining. And
I think in this one, when you watch the trailer, you're going to realize there's more Hollywood to this one than there were in the other ones. Definitely by the end of this trailer, you're going to go, wow, I don't think half of this stuff ever happened to Ed and Lorraine, but it's definitely going to be entertaining. I do have the audio if you want to hear it from Colin Cowherd.
All right, let's go ahead and hear Colin Cowherd taking a swing at Baker Mayfield.
And Joy Taylor, his co-host, also does. If you want to hear the ultimate in cynicism, Dave, I have it ready. Here we go.
Baker Mayfield talking yesterday. He doubled down on not only UFOs, but something else. Now, UFOs, we have governments now, including ours, that are acknowledging we don't know what this is, and we're investigating. So for the day, I'm going to give Baker a pass. But the Sasquatch, come on. The two greatest Sasquatch sightings, one was in the Himalayas in the early 90s, and the people admitted it was a total hoax. Mm-hmm. Then there's this picture that happened in the 60s, 70s in Northern California. That is largely considered a hoax because somebody in the family had a Hollywood tie and they had a suit. And so there was a daughter of somebody who said, yeah, Dad had a suit and this is the kind of thing Dad would have done. And Dad lived up in Northern California, used to work in Hollywood. So that's considered a hoax. And the Himalayan issue, that was a hoax. That's a confirmed. So I grew up in the Pacific Northwest.
I'm not into the Sasquatch thing. I don't believe it.
So I grew up in the Pacific Northwest. The wake and bake crowd was very much into that. So basically what the Sasquatch is, it's a great marketing story. It really is. There's never been a sighting that's legitimate. That's the only one.
Also, it's not that hard to find anything on Earth. Like
you'd find it.
Satellites. There's nobody goes off the grid anymore. So everyone's freaking out about microchips. You can't go off the grid. It's over. You're always going to be on the grid. So you tell me you can't find a Sasquatch? Of course you can find a Sasquatch.
If you wanted to find one. Now UFOs, there are enough sightings and governments now are saying, we're not sure what it is. Now, what do I believe? I believe it's other governments that are ahead of us on some stuff and we're seeing pictures of it.
No, there's definitely 1000% aliens. We are not the only intelligent life in the entire universe. That's such a human thing to say.
I know. Well, I'm very human. I think that's it. And I think when they get down here, they're not going to be as smart as everybody thinks.
I think they're going to get here, take a look around, and be like, let's get out of here.
How come if they're so smart, they always crash when they get down here?
Well,
they fly through space, then run into a tree in New Mexico. I don't think they're that smart. Sound like a bad driver.
I, for one, Joy Taylor, am cool with the alien community. That's Colin Cowherd talking. So when you come to take over, I am the queen.
I've got my questions.
Do me no harm.
Prove it to me.
I've been a supporter for a long time.
I haven't.
This goes double for the robots who are definitely coming for us soon.
Now, see, that's why I like Joy Taylor. She agrees the robots are coming for us. But here's the thing.
Yeah, but
Dave.
she's also the one that went, I don't believe in the Sasquatch thing.
Well, yeah, and she's also the one that says you can never go off the grid, which I hate to tell you, Joy, get rid of your credit cards, get rid of your cell phone, pay in cash, you're off the grid.
That's right.
It's really easy to get off the grid. Incredibly easy. In fact, Jesse Ventura does it 6 months out of the year. So the fact is,
and then the one that they're referring to that was proven, the Yeti one, okay, but the other one that they're referring to is the famous Patterson-Gimlin, and
Yes.
it has never been effectively discredited.
And
they've had a couple of jackasses come forward and make claims, but none of them panned out to be true.
right. And as they're talking about it, they have an image of the Patterson-Gimlin film behind Colin as he's talking about it and deliberately telling mistruths about the Patterson-Gimlin film. So none of what they're saying is actually right, which I find hysterical. So here, I'm going to say it right now, Dave. We don't talk about the NFL draft. You please don't talk about the paranormal.
That's right. We should get on. You know what? Make it happen. Get me on Colin Cowherd's show, and I'm going to take him apart for being a dumbass.
I'll
be like, hey, you know what? I don't talk to you about whose running stats are best or who can hit harder. You don't know shit about ghosts, UFOs, and Bigfoot, you goof. I still think Mark Gastineau was a Sasquatch that just had good hair management.
Wow, that's really reaching back.
I know, but he was huge.
He was. Yeah.
He looked like a Sasquatch.
You could have at least come into this century
wow.
And made a Jared Allen reference. I mean, I would have given you that.
I don't know. Jared Allen's like I think he's a Sasquatch alien human hybrid. So that's
I would have given you that. Yeah.
All right, today, folks, check it out. It's Cinco de Mayo, The Makeover 2, Rise of the Monsters. Jeff Belanger and I, for your entertainment, made up to look like creepy monsters during the run of the video. So check that out, and you can find that on my social media. You can find it on his social media, Jeff Belanger. We're going to have some fun with that. A Cinco de Nino show. We might have to do that, Tim. We might have to still make a Cinco de Nino show happen.
A Cinco de Nino?
Yeah. People like the...
Here's the thing, okay? And I don't mind. I don't mind giving it the old college try, minus butt beers. But here's the thing. You can't go to the well too many times.
I agree. People keep harassing us about it. I agree. You know what? Maybe we should skip. Just stick with the Cinco de Makeover for this year. Maybe we'll come back in a year or two.
The only thing I can think of is if we do a giant Cinco de Nino Zoom party. You know what I'm talking about?
I don't. Continue on. I mean, I know what Zoom is, but go on.
I think we should do a huge Cinco de Nino Zoom extravaganza. So what it would be not just you and I, but you and I in a cavalcade of a bunch of paranormal stars and friends. So we're
all getting drunk simultaneously.
Yeah, it'll be like
day drinking.
Yeah, day drinking, like a bunch of day drinking stars and friends, and we'll all get together and do it, and we'll record it, and then release it as a podcast.
That's Sunday. I don't think I can do it Sunday. I don't think Sunday is the day we should get together, but it is Cinco de Nino. How about this? Next year it'll be on a Monday. Next year, let's shoot for Cinco de Nino live. That'll give us time to pull together a full day drinking panel.
Well, I'm not saying, but here's the thing. Mm-hmm. We don't have to necessarily, Cinco de Nino did not happen in front of an audience. It doesn't have to happen in front of an audience. It's just a podcast and we'll do it. And the reason we would do it on Zoom is because we can't get everybody into a studio. If we have a cavalcade of stars, we would get.
That's true. Well, actually, on my StreamYard, I can get up to 10 people. So yeah, we could make that happen even.
Yeah, we'll
have fun with it. Yeah,
we'll get a whole bunch of people together, and we'll.
All right, so we'll give them a year off, and we'll be back next year with Cinco de Nino, the day drinking paranormal show.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So there you got it, folks. No Cinco de Nino this year. Next year, we're back. We'll have a big cavalcade of stars drinking and having fun with us.
Yeah.
So we'll do that. It's time to wrap it up. We'll be back again tomorrow, and we got a heck of a show for you. Time shifts, time slips. Are UFO, Bigfoot, alien, ghosts, and all of these other strange paranormal phenomena really signs of time slips? Van Broschler, one of our favorite guests, is back with us tomorrow. We'll talk with him about that and have a little fun. We want to thank Carlos Alazraqui today for joining us, and Bill Chappell for jumping in on a real-life Parashare. We love hearing those tales. Keep them coming. Send me your stories, Dave@darknessradio.com. And that's it for today. We'll be back tomorrow with more of the best in paranormal talk radio. I'm Dave. That's Tim. This is Darkness Radio.